Welcome to What is Crypto? I'm Matt, and this is Crypto. Today I'm going to be talking to you about BRET 0x240 and why I think BRET could be a pretty good place to have a look if you're not familiar with this meme coin. Now, it's got crazy community strength and a lot to be super bullish about, so if any of that sounds like it could be for you, like, subscribe. Also, drop a comment for BRET on ETH 0x240 down below, and it'll help get that BRET content out there to the masses. Now, let's get into it. Alrighty, so BRET. Now, the main reason that we're talking about BRET today is I did a post talking about some of the meme coins, as I really did want to assess the community strength for lots of different meme coins. So these are coins that I'm actively looking at the moment, and really impressed with the response from BRET. It was overwhelming that BRET kind of had the most amount of engagement. So yeah, shout out to BRET community. Also, Turbo did super well, so I'll do a video on Turbo. But yeah, BRET 0x240, here is your video. Let's get into it. Not talking about BRET on base, although I will mention this later on, and why I think that if you're looking at upside, as we are all here to make money, then BRET on ETH, which is this BRET, listed 1 year, 7 months, 2 days ago, making it the original BRET with a contract address 0x240, makes a huge amount of sense. Just quickly though, a quick look at BRET on base, as the performance of BRET on base directly impacts how high BRET on ETH could go. If you're bullish on BRET on ETH, then you probably want BRET on base to do poorly. But yeah, this is a quick look at BRET on base, as it is super important to see how BRET on base is faring to assess the potential upside for BRET on ETH. So currently it's been absolutely obliterated from a market cap of 2.3 billion down to a market cap of 432 million. So meme coins in general have been crushed, but BRET on base has just lost a couple of key levels. One of the main reasons that I think BRET got so beaten up is the fact that everyone was picking BRET to be that first base meme coin listed on Coinbase. However, Coinbase listed Toshi. As you can see on the chart, Coinbase listing, Toshi went absolutely parabolic from a market cap of around 40 million to over a 20x to almost that 1 billion mark. Currently now, Toshi has a market cap sitting similar to BRET, and a lot of people are thinking that the blue chip meme coin on base is now likely going to be Toshi. So that hurts BRET on base's case to start with. So BRET on base, you can see it was listed 11 months ago, and it has been speculated that some of the reason that it didn't get a Coinbase listing is due to the fact that there is more original BRET. BRET on Ethereum, this one down here is the one I'm going to be talking about today. Now I'm going to be talking about this one as this is the original BRET. So you can check all of the listings, and it is the first BRET launched. Now this also is the first BRET launched on Ethereum, and for me, Ethereum is largely going to be the most bullish chain for meme coins. If you've been playing around with meme coins on Solana, you know that there is very minimal community. Most people on Solana are there to make a quick dollar and jeet or dump their bags almost immediately. Ethereum is that place where communities really start to thrive, and communities with a strong narrative on ETH, I do think, are going to perform super damn well. Now, the Pepe verse narrative is super damn hot, and the fact that this is the original BRET, I think that is a pretty awesome narrative. Now, the great thing about the blockchain is we can prove that there has not been a BRET before this. This will always be the first BRET on Ethereum, and nothing can change that. So I think there is always going to be value in things that are original, the first of their kind, and I think there is always going to be value in originals. Now, before meme coins, maybe when you're a kid you had Pokemon cards, etc. Now, if you want to look at the valuable ones there, they're the first editions, the originals. Now, this is the case in a lot of different places, and it's also the case on the blockchain. So the fact that we can verify that this is the original BRET, I think means it gives it a value and it gives it a narrative that can't be replicated or replaced. This will always be the first BRET, and I think that is a pretty awesome fact. So in my mind, there are only two BRETs that make any sense at all. One is BRET on base, one is BRET on ETH. And I think if you're looking upside, BRET on ETH definitely has more potential X's that could come. Once again, not financial advice. This is just what I'm looking at currently, and these are my thought processes on why I think BRET on ETH makes sense. Contract address 0x240, that is BRET on ETH. So if you look at its chart, it's also been fairly obliterated from all-time highs. However, interestingly to note, in a time period over the last couple of months when a lot of other coins have been getting absolutely massacred, BRET on ETH 0x240 has been holding up quite well. So over this time period, it's only down maybe 30 or so %, and it does look like it's held a floor now for a couple of weeks. So this kind of support that it's been holding at the moment has really been from August 2024. Did have that crazy run up, and then BRET on base started doing super well. However, since BRET on base has been bleeding hard and Toshi got listed, Brett on ETH has been holding up comparatively pretty darn well. So if you're not familiar with the character Brett, I'll do a little bit of a background. The narrative is that Pepe, which is the leading meme coin this cycle, only behind Dogecoin and Shiba, but it is largely thought to be the leading meme coin this cycle, with a market cap at its peak of around 10 billion. Now, although that does sound like a huge amount of money, Dogecoin has peaked out at a market cap of around 90 billion, and even this cycle so far hit 60 billion for a short period of time. So with meme coins, they can get up to pretty crazy valuations. Anyway, Pepe largely seen to be the leading meme coin this cycle, and Pepe is a frog drawn by this man here, Matt Furie. So Pepe is the main character of a book called Boys Club. Now, Pepe, huge internet meme. In the book that Pepe appears in, Boys Club, there are 4 characters. So Pepe, Brett, Wolf, and Andy. Now, Pepe's best friend is Brett. So the narrative really is the best friend of the leading meme coin this cycle. So yeah, Brett, I think the narrative is super strong, and if Pepe's already got to a market cap of 10 billion previously, and altcoin season hasn't even really got going yet, and Pepe's widely considered to potentially push up to 50 to 100 billion, that kind of range, if the leading Brett can capture even a few percent of that, up to 5-10%, then we're going to be looking at a pretty high valuation of that leading Brett. So it was widely considered for a long period of time that the leading Brett was going to be Brett on Base. However, after Toshi's listing and after Brett on Base not getting a listing and not even being rumored to be getting a listing on Coinbase, I think a lot of people are potentially jumping ship. Even if they're not jumping ship from Brett on Base to Brett on ETH, I think they're jumping ship from Brett on Base to Toshi, as for very similar market caps to a coin that's already got their listing on Coinbase and is now that kind of flagship Coinbase meme. I think a lot of people are seeing that narrative as pretty damn hot. And for me, that's really where Brett on ETH steps in. Undoubtedly, the Pepe narrative and Pepeverse is a super hot narrative. Now, the more that Brett on Base fades and the less strength that Brett on Base gets, with potential FUD around Coinbase, maybe not seeing it as the original Brett, well, I think that gives rise to potentially Brett on ETH having a good run. Now, this is a coin that was community taken over, starting at a very low market cap. Now, like all community takeovers, there are massive run-ups and then there are sell-offs. Run-ups, sell-offs, run-ups, sell-offs. They kind of form a range. And when most of the sellers are exhausted and the people holding that really do believe keep accumulating, there is that absolute blow-off run-up. Now, we saw that happen before when it ran from a market cap of around 4 million in the space of a week or two, all the way up to almost 50 million. Crazy run-up. Now, of course, after such big pumps, people are going to take profits. It has now consolidated, and I do think potentially the lows are in. If the market keeps bleeding, obviously there is a good chance that meme coins continue to bleed more. However, I'm liking what I'm seeing at the moment. We have potentially started to put in a couple of higher lows, and this also does coincide with a pretty decent area of support. So really one to watch at the moment, but I do think that the value is there right now for Brett on ETH. Now, I don't like to give price predictions as they are notoriously inaccurate. However, if we're just talking about the potential upside, not what's definitely going to happen, but the potential upside, if Pepe goes to a market cap of 50 to 100 billion, then a Brett, the leading Brett, whichever Brett that is, capturing a market cap of 10% of that is fairly reasonable. 5 to 10%, which would be around a $5 to $10 billion mark. From here, in between 5 and 10 billion is 7.5 billion. That is a 1000x from Brett. A 10x puts it at a 76 million, a 100x puts it at a 760 million, and a 1000x puts it at a 7.6 billion. Now, I'm not saying it's getting there, but that is just the potential upside for the leading Brett this cycle. Brett on Base already got to a third of that, over 2.25 billion. It only needed a bit over a 3x to get there, and altcoin season isn't even really cooking at the moment. So if Brett on Base continues to bleed and Brett on ETH continues to hold fairly strong, and the upside is there with people leaving Brett on Base to go to either Brett on Ethereum or into Toshi, then I think the narrative for Brett on ETH being the original Brett and a strong performer is only going to get stronger. So yeah, potential huge upside from here. Definitely not trying to say if you invest now, you're going to guarantee to 1000x your money. However, if this Brett does flip Brett on Base, then I don't think that is as far-fetched as it might initially seem. And even if it doesn't get there, the community keeps shipping and it only makes it up to a few 100 million market cap. Well, that is still a 20, 30, 40, 50x from here, which is nothing to be be sneezed at all. The Bread on ETH community is super strong, and they were the community that rated my post the hardest. Also love the Bread on ETH community, as they really were some of the first people to start commenting on my posts and really helped get my channel noticed. So yeah, I do always have a soft spot for Bread on ETH, OX240, and I am pretty damn bullish on its future. Now, if we want to have a bit of a look at their Twitter account, you can see that they've got over 10,000 followers, which is a pretty healthy number. Now, they are followed by quite a lot of decent names in the space, a couple of people that I personally like, a couple of decent influencers as well, such as Rico Moneybags, Zach Ventura, as well as some of the hardest workers in the space. Some of their names appear on the screen, you know who you are. Really do love a community that works hard, and the community Bread on ETH undoubtedly works some of the hardest in the space. Also, lastly, but definitely not least, some other things that I'm super bullish on. So if you're looking at Ethereum on the weekly at the stochastic RSIs, we are heavily oversold. Now, previously when we've been oversold, it has been a good buying opportunity leading to some positive price action. Not saying it's guaranteed to happen this time, but I do think we can expect to see ETH start to perform really well. Now, you're probably familiar with why I'm talking about Ethereum. However, if you're not, it is super important that Ethereum does well. And if Ethereum does well, then Ethereum meme coins and altcoins on Ethereum are also going to benefit handsomely. So if you're bullish on altcoins in general or meme coins, you really want to see Ethereum do well. Once Ethereum does well and starts absolutely ripping, that's when you're going to have absolutely parabolic price growth in your different altcoin or meme coins. Also really important to look at Bitcoin. So we are in a bit of a range with Bitcoin at the moment, but on the weekly, the stochastics are also looking quite oversold. Also, quick look at Bitcoin dominance. If you're not familiar with my channel or Bitcoin dominance, in essence, to put it shortly, when this chart is going down, that means that altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin. When this chart is going up, that means that Bitcoin is outperforming altcoins. So what you want to do is you want to see this chart start trending down. Now, these yellow vertical lines indicate the halvings, and as you can see previously, 7 months after the halving, big drop off in Bitcoin dominance. Then 8 months after the halving, big drop off in Bitcoin dominance. We're currently 9 months after the halving. And if you want to look at it on the daily, it looks like we are potentially starting to trend down. Although it is nothing to get too excited about until we break below this range. Now, what has happened previously when we break down with Bitcoin dominance, altcoins have gone absolutely parabolic. So it's usually a pretty darn good indicator when things are heating up. So yeah, really key one to watch here. And if you want to follow my channel, I cover it pretty damn often. Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up from me today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. Also join my Discord. It's 100% free to join. I'll leave a link in the description. So if you want to get content like this, also reach out and chat to me. Then scroll down, click the link, and I'll see you there. Cheers, legends. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, and I'll catch you in the next one.